What's up, everybody? It is Ted. Right back with you to review the latest pro wrestling news and results on wrestling rants. Baby! Yeah! It is a retrospective, a throwback Thursday where each and every week we look back at this day in wrestling history. Today's date is June 15th, so we are going to take a look backwards and see what the fuck happened on June 15th in pro wrestling, folks. All right, let's get into it in just a moment. Just a quick reminder, still to come here at Wrestling Rants before the weekend. We have versus Impact versus Ring of Honor coming up. And then this weekend, I will be at AEW Collision in Chicago. So be looking for a lot of rant-exclusive content dropped from that show on Saturday. This includes stuff before the cameras start, stuff during the commercials, stuff after the cameras stop rolling at the end of Collision. We'll probably get some clips in from the Ring of Honor tapings as well on this show. Who knows what the fuck's going to happen at the United Center on Saturday as part of the AEW inaugural episode of Collision. Also hoping to check out ICW's No Holds Barred event from suburban Chicago tomorrow night. So be looking for clips from that show as well. So let's get into it without any further ado. Retrospective, this day in wrestling, June 15th. Let's talk about it. First and foremost, the wrestlers and personalities in wrestling that were born on this day include Jungle Boy, Bailey, Cesar Bononi, Chuck Palumbo, I believe Brad Armstrong, who has passed away, was born on this day, and Scott Norton, formerly of the NWO, a Minnesota guy, I believe, who was a bouncer in some Minneapolis bar when he was found and made his way into wrestling. So, all right, let's get back into this day in wrestling, 1997. Let's rewind all the way back to 97 and the Great American Bash put on by WCW on this day in Moline, Illinois. Listen to some of these matches. Ultimo Dragon over Psychosis was the opener. Also, for number one contendership for the tag titles, Harlem Heat went over the Steiner Brothers. How about this match? This was, I believe, a big deal at the time, if I recall, but Kevin Green, the football player, went over Steve Mongo McMichael in a battle of basically, I think Kevin Green may have still been in the NFL at this point, was in the offseason. The Outsiders defended the tag titles against Ric Flair and Roddy Piper. How about that? The Outsiders went over in that match. And then we got the main event, Macho Man Randy Savage over Diamond Dallas Page in a Falls Count Anywhere match that I definitely remember this one very fondly back in the day. Let's move ahead to 1998. Monday Night Raw was taped in San Antonio, Texas. And this one was notable because this was the first, technically, the first tag match, that was contested and held in a cell. Now, this match basically never really started, if I recall. It was ruled a no contest when it was just a wild brawl, but it was Austin and The Undertaker going to a no contest with Kane and Mankind. Keep in mind the time frame when this was as well. This was right before King of the Ring 98. So they were pushing that Hell in a Cell gimmick strongly, and I believe King of the Ring was maybe the next week or something. It was right around this time in 1998. And then we go to 2003. Let's fast forward a little ahead. This was WWE's Bad Blood pay-per-view from Houston, Texas. Some highlights of this show. There was a 3 kind of match series called a redneck triathlon between Eric Bischoff and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I remember this being pretty freaking weird that this was on a pay-per-view. Stuff I'd rather forget. And I kind of put it out of my mind, and then I took a look at what was going on today on June 15th, and I was like, oh shit, that shit was on this pay-per-view. Yeah. Goldberg went over Chris Jericho. If you recall, they had some kind of back history in WCW that played into this match actually happened in WWE. Ric Flair went over Shawn Michaels. This is a very long-winded foreshadowing of the finale of Ric Flair's WWE career against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 24 in 2008. I believe that year was. Well, this was 2003 we're talking about here. How about that? Then the main event was another Hell in a Cell match. Triple H over Kevin Nash with Mick Foley as the special referee. I remember being underwhelmed by this one for sure, looking back. Moving to 2004, there was a SmackDown taping in Rosemont, Illinois at the Allstate Arena. And we saw a couple titles being changed here. The Dudleys went over Charlie Haas and Rico to win the tag titles. And Rey Mysterio went over Chavo Guerrero Sr. for the Cruiserweight Championship. Fast forwarding to 2009 now. This was an interesting angle that didn't have much meat to the bone. It didn't last long because it affected the stock price of WWE. This was Vince McMahon selling the company to Donald Trump. And people lost their shit when they heard this happen. The stock dropped. People were thinking this really happened, but it was just a storyline that got kind of nipped in the bud pretty quickly after this. Also on this Raw, Randy Orton went over John Cena, Big Show, and Triple H in number one contenders fatal four-way match. Moving all the way to 2014 now. We talk a little bit about Impact / TNA as they had Slammiversary 12 from Arlington, Texas on this day in 2014. Let's list off some of these matches. Bobby Lashley over Samoa Joe in the opener. Austin Aries went over Kenny King. Both Lashley and Aries advanced then to a steel cage match with Eric Young at the main event for the world title, which... wow, looking back at that. How about Magnus, Nick Aldis over Willow, Jeff Hardy? Do not remember that match at all. I do not remember this one either. EC3 going over Bully Ray in a Texas death match thanks to Dixie Carter's interference. Boy, I repeat, do not remember that at all. And then, like I said, the main event, steel cage match, three-way, Eric Young over Austin Aries and Bobby Lashley to retain the TNA World Championship. Yo. One more little note before we go at Rantrospective. On this day, June 15, 2016, the first final deletion match in the broken universe, I guess you'd call it, at the Hardy compound was filmed on this day in 2016. That match was Jeff against Matt Hardy. The first iteration of many now back, I think they've had at least 5 or 6, haven't they, matches at the Hardy compound, which are always very, very wacky for sure. And that's it for this day in wrestling on June 15th. It's part of Rantrospective. Little look back at the history of pro wrestling and what'll happen on this day back in the day. So come on back right here, Wrestling Rants. We still got verses right here from the Wrestling Rants Control Center before I go to Chicago for this weekend. Big weekend. Collision is on its way on Saturday. I will be there, 6th row, right in front of the stage in the ring, kind of in between there. Got a really good perspective on everything that's going to happen at the United Center. Looking forward to it. So come on back for more this weekend. Right here, Wrestling Rants. Better.